Good morning, guys. I have one cup of coffee in me, so I'm ready to rock and roll here.
All right, man. You got all the diapers changed, all that stuff. The kids are set.
Diapers are changed. Coffee is inside me. I'm ready to rock.
The Saturday morning cartoons are on. You're all set, right?
Oh yeah. Well, that stuff happened hours ago, Sully. So now it's almost lunchtime in my house.
Oh, right. I just rolled out of bed around 7:15. So.
The life of a single man.
Yeah, right. Before we get into some football, Mike, let's talk a little field hockey. And this is always the time of year where we're talking about Ocean City. And outstanding game on Thursday against Morristown. They were down 1-0 early, come back to tie that on a Julia Harrington goal, and then they win it on a Nicole Fenton goal in the second half there. And this team I don't know what it is about this team. They live for this time of year.
Yeah, death, taxes, and Ocean City field hockey going far in the state playoffs is what I always say. But no, you're right, Sully. I mean, you almost take it for granted that Ocean City field hockey is going to be there, but you look a little bit closer. It's so tough to continually beat the same teams over and over again. And, a huge credit to Coach Terry and that program for seemingly getting to this point almost every single year. You go back a few years, I mean, every time Ocean City field hockey made it to the state championship, they won. But they seem to run to the same team every time there, which is Warren Hills. And you saw the last couple of years, Warren Hills come away with the state championship. So that just gives you a little glimpse of how tough it is to continually beat the same team over and over again. And Ocean City is going to have another chance at Warren Hills later today up in Bordentown. But the game you're talking about, that state semifinal against Morristown, again, it's the same scenario. I mean, it's those two teams 4 out of the last 5 years, and now Ocean City has won every single one of those matchups. So it's hard to describe how tough that is when you have to beat the same team over and over again. And you're talking about a Morristown team that obviously the Central Jersey champion. I think Morristown had like 4 losses on the season, and all of them were the state finalists or at least state semifinalists. So huge win for Ocean City, and we'll see if the Red Raiders can finish the job later today.
Yeah, you mentioned Warren Hills. They've played each other this will be the 5th time in 5 years for the state championship. Ocean City won it the first 2 times. Last 2 years going to Warren Hills. So you know what you're up against if you're Ocean City. And just seems like there's something special about this group. A lot of seniors who have been together for a couple of years. Some girls that are going to be going on and playing high level Division I. So we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, Warren Hills, like you said, is one of the best teams in New Jersey, as all these teams are when you get to the Group 3 and Group 4 semifinals and finals. But do you get a sense that this team is really on a mission?
Yeah, I really do, and you mentioned it there. I think there's 11 seniors leading the way, and Ocean City always has a huge leadership role from that senior class, but it seems like this year more than ever, just so many of those girls are seniors in key spots, really leading the way on that team. And yeah, it's a situation where, and I talked about this on the air yesterday, I think when I showed the highlights for SNJ today. South Jersey championships are great, and obviously that's sort of the goal for so many programs across so many sports in the area. But there's just a few of those programs that South Jersey championships are nice, but the main goal is that state championship, and obviously Ocean City falls in that category. If Warren Hills comes away with the win today, is the season a failure for Ocean City? No, absolutely not. They're still one of the best teams in South Jersey and the state, but everyone shoots for that state title around the Ocean City field hockey program from the time they start practice in the summertime through the start of the season in September, and now obviously here we are in November going into the state championship game. So, yeah, it's a senior-laden team. All of those girls were on the field last year, or at least on the bench when Ocean City lost that heartbreaker. And, trust me, as a competitor, as an athlete, you don't forget something like that, and that'll be a little extra fuel to the fire as they take on Warren Hills again today.
Talking with Mike Frankel of SNJ today. Mike, a couple of soccer teams that have really come into their own this year, and we kind of saw this coming for the last year or so. Mainland boys and Holy Spirit girls. Mainland boys will be Tuesday night up in Toms River playing in the Group 3 semifinals, and Holy Spirit's going to travel up to Kane University on Sunday morning at 10 for an overall state championship. Holy Spirit came so close last year to winning that South Jersey title. They lost to Morristown Friends. So now they finally got their first South Jersey championship. Now they're in the state championship. And Mainland, you really have seen this coming for a couple of years. There's this huge group of juniors and sophomores that came together through the Mainland United travel program. And when you get a group like that together that's played together on travel teams for years and years, and it finally all comes together at the high school level, you can go on a nice little 1, 2, 3 year run.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time before Mainland was going to get there, was going to arrive on the boys' high school soccer side. I mean, you're talking about some youth programs there, and those are kids, playing against the youth programs involving the kids from Ocean City and Upper Township, and we all know the success the Ocean City programs had over the years, and those kids also played against, the kids from the Cape Express, feeder system down there in Cape May County, and we all know the success that Middle Township has had over the years. So it was only a matter of time before Mainland, a school that's right there, and those young kids are playing against some of those other proud programs, and those kids have gone on to win titles on the high school level, and now it was only a matter of time before Mainland was going to do the same. But you're absolutely right. Magical run for the Mustangs so far this season, and really a stingy defense. I mean, 14 shutouts from that group so far, and what really impressed me was the resolve in that South Jersey championship game. You give up the first goal of the playoffs there to Hamilton, and Blue Devils have all the momentum. Mainland down 1-0 at the half, and really no panic from the Mustangs. You just come right out, and anyone who was there can tell you Mainland dominated possession in that second half. They got the equalizer, and then they get the go-ahead goal and hang on. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals where at this point I think Mainland certainly has arrived in terms of boys soccer, not just for this year, but there's some young kids on that team. And again, a bunch of seniors, and this is their last ride, but also some young kids on that team that'll look to keep this going next year and in years to come.
Yeah, we're actually going to have one of the seniors follow you up, Victor Figueroa, outstanding player. He's going to be coming on around 8:30, so we'll talk a little bit more soccer here in a few minutes. Mike wanted to get into some high school football. Were you at both those games last night, Millville and Vineland?
I was just over at the Millville game, Sully, and it was a good one. I mean, yeah, the Thunderbolts were the 3 seed, but for all accounts, I think most people were talking about Millville as the underdog because you're facing a Cherokee team that's obviously one of the perennial powers in South Jersey Group 5. And, Millville comes away with the win, and they really did it with defense. I mean, there were a couple outstanding, spectacular-type offensive plays, but really defensively, Millville was able to slow down John Lovett, of course, the Chiefs' star senior running back. He's heading to Rutgers next year. Lovett did have a pick 6 for a touchdown. He also had a short run for a touchdown, but for the most part, no big plays, and Millville's defense able to clamp down when it really mattered to come away with the win.
Yeah, this Millville team has we weren't sure what they were going to be in the beginning of the season, but they've really turned in a pretty outstanding season, and now they're on to the sectional semifinals. Yeah,
and it's a Group 5 school in Millville, but the numbers just aren't there. So, on paper, if you haven't seen Millville play, you don't really know the amount of kids standing on the sideline. It's not a lot. I mean, Cherokee, in terms of roster size, probably doubled Millville last night, but in terms of the talent on the field, Millville has so many guys playing both sides of the ball. Clayton Scott on offense and also chipping in on defense. A guy like Zach Douglas leading that defense as well. Marcial Ramos. The list goes on and on. So a lot of two-way players, which is a little bit rare for a South Jersey Group 5 team, but there are a lot of talented players, and certainly they've been able to stay healthy, at least to this point, and getting the job done. But, yeah, it's one of those deals where Millville seems to fly under the radar almost every year, but they seem to churn out a winning product almost every year. Dennis Thomas now in his second year there and really building a winner, and we'll see what they can do next week now going up the Rancocas Valley. That's not an easy game. Iverson Clement, big-time Division I recruit for RV. But we'll see what Millville can do now. One win away from a South Jersey championship game.
That's going to be a heck of a game next week. Whew.
Yeah, it really will be. And obviously Millville has to go on the road there, and it's a little bit of a long haul up to Mount Holly. But, at this point in the season, look at that result last night between Toms River North and Atlantic City. I mean, you just never know. Toms River North, widely considered outside of Timber Creek the top public school in South Jersey, if you include Toms River in the South Jersey, and obviously NJSIA does. Atlantic City sort of backing into the playoffs there, but you just never know. The Vikings giving the Mariners everything they wanted and more, and AC almost came away with that huge upset win last night before Toms River North came back at the end to take it.
Nice little segue there, Mike. I was just about to get into Atlantic City. You know what you're doing.
On the same page, Sully. What can I say?
But, yeah, talk about them real quick. What an effort by that squad. We really didn't know what we were going to get out of them because they have been so up and down this year. They came into the playoffs 4-4 as the number 8 seed. But to me, there's something about those kids in Atlantic City when they get into playoff atmosphere and championship sports. Something comes out, and there's such a deep competitiveness in those kids, whether it be basketball, football, no matter what sport it is, field hockey, they come to play when the playoffs come around. And we almost saw them pull a huge upset over, I think, Williamstown a couple of years ago, gave them a scare. So this is not anything new, Atlantic City giving somebody a scare in the playoffs.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And, no disrespect to kids from other programs, but, across the board, Atlantic City kids are just, to be quite honest, just quite tougher than you are for the most part. I mean, they're kids that are battle tested. You mentioned a lot of them play multiple sports. A lot of basketball players also play football. Nazim Derry, junior quarterback for Atlantic City, really coming into his own this year. And as a sophomore, he stepped up big time for the AC High basketball team last year, coming off the bench and helping them get to a state championship game. And it's a similar situation to Millville. I mean, it's a Group 5 team, Group 5 school, but the numbers on the football team just aren't necessarily there. But Atlantic City, head coach Thomas Kelly, they just do everything they can with what they have. They don't have a ton of depth, but they obviously have some really, really good kids in the starting lineup and some kids playing both ways. And, yeah, give all the credit in the world to Atlantic City. I don't know if Toms River North was looking past them, but obviously once that game got going, North could no longer afford to look past them. I mean, as we said, the Vikings giving the Mariners everything they wanted and more up there and almost able to come away with the win. You mentioned them taking Williamstown to the limit a couple of years ago. You go back even further, I think it was the same matchup, Toms River North, and I think I'm talking like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, but it was an 8-1 matchup again, and similar situation. I mean, Atlantic City almost went up there and beat them. So, yeah, it's just they just compete. They play a tough schedule, and I talked to Thomas Kelly before the season about that again this year. I mean, the schedule makers don't do them any favors, and there's a lot of big teams in that same boat. I mean, everyone's playing a tough schedule, but it seems like Atlantic City has all the big public schools. They had to play St. Augustine, and they don't make excuses. They find a way to get it done, and they got into the playoffs. And obviously a disappointing result last night. Even as the 8th seed, you think you can win that game, and but they'll look forward again to that matchup against Holy Spirit, and I think that'll be a good one on Thanksgiving.
Talking to Mike Frankel of SNJ today. Mike, real quick before we let you go, what do you think the chances are of St. Augustine going up the Parkway about 2 hours today and coming home with a victory? They got to go up to Bergen Catholic, which is going to be no easy task. They've had an undefeated season so far, but when that team gets into the playoffs, really some incredible competition when you're talking about trying to take down some of those North Jersey schools.
Yeah, it's just a different animal altogether, Sully. I mean, you're talking about the state non-public 4 bracket. Not only is the best bracket in New Jersey, it's got to be one of the top brackets on the East Coast, if not the country. You're talking about so many of those teams up there, Paramus Catholic, a Bergen Catholic, a Don Bosco, not just, top ranked in New Jersey, but top ranked on the East Coast, top ranked in the state some years. So, yeah, it's a huge challenge for St. Augustine. And, as we've talked about, a lot of people have talked about it. It's really it's disappointing that the NJSIAA has decided to go with these new rules this year. St. Augustine, I mean, you're talking about the best team in South Jersey, but they had no chance to earn a home game just based on these PowerPoint rules. So you put that to the side at this point because you have to. You can't harbor on it because, you're never going to get ready for the game. And I know Mark Gruden will have his guys ready to go, and I expect a close game up there. If there's ever a year that St. Augustine can maybe get this done, it seems to be this year. And again, people underestimate just how good a team like a Bergen Catholic is, but St. Augustine has the athletes. They have the kids. They have the veteran experience. Zeke Ennis on the outside and Josh Samad coming into his own at quarterback. So they have the athletes to get it done. We'll just see. I think they're going to have to weather the storm early up there. They're going to have to hang in that game early, and then the longer they can hang around, the more nervous the Crusaders might get for Bergen Catholic.
Good stuff, Mike. If people want to catch the locker room tonight, tell us how we can check the highlights from last night's games.
Yeah, absolutely, Sully. All of the high school football highlights from this week 1 of the playoffs coming tonight, 7 o'clock, channel 798 or 4. It's WMGM. It's the old NBC 40 channel for people that are familiar with that. And, yeah, it's a half-hour show, 30 minutes of highlights, the locker room on SNJ today. Good stuff, man. I'm sure I'll see you all over the place the next couple days. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Have a great weekend. All right, thanks, Mike. Have a good one. All right. That's Mike Frankel of SNJ today. He does a great job following all the high school sports.